This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Oh my God!
Welcome to episode 87 of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Adam the Jock Strozinski. On this week's episode, we've got some news on AEW's television, as well as what's going on with Jon Moxley's NWJP contract. Also, some familiar faces? Maybe not. I don't know. They re-up with WWE. We're going to discuss that. And an update on Lars Sullivan. As well as we're going to do the Stomping Ground preview with our predictions. We're going to discuss some AEW booking scenarios. And we've got to review highlights and lowlights of Raw and SmackDown. Doing it with me, as always, is my co-host. He's the one. He's the only. He is the Doc, John Macaroon. What's up, cuz?
Could Baron Corbin be the next Universal Champion is the question. Monday Night Raw set the scene for some interesting thoughts and debate that we could have. Monday Night Raw was better. It was watchable. I know that sometimes we get busy and things like that, but WWE at least made a concerted effort to put on a show that was not filled with 8 promos. It made sense. It was a show that at least talked about some storylines and set up maybe one of the biggest angles that could take over Monday Night Raw, and we're going to talk all about it. I thought Raw was a lot better this week, and I was happy to at least enjoy some wrestling this week where we're not talking about, God, this sucks. There's some things to talk about because, you know, when you have a show that's not good and it's disappointing and deflating, it sucks. But when the stories don't make sense and you have a lot of promos, that makes it so much worse. At least now, some stories are starting to be told that make sense and are going somewhere, because prior to Raw, everybody was talking about it. The buzz for Stomping Grounds was probably the worst I had ever seen going into a WWE pay-per-view. Many people were like, do I even got to watch it? I could do something so much better with my time. After Raw, I think there are some things that you might want to see on Stomping Ground. So that's all you can ask for.
So Raw got you primed for Stomping Ground.
I'm ready to see some things.
It got you a little bit more interested.
Yes, I think. What do we talk about? Who's the face of WWE? And we said, is it Seth Rollins? We were questioning it. The way they set up Monday Night Raw, right away. It's great to see, because one of the questions that they set up was, who's going to be the special referee? Who's going to be the guy that's going to work with Baron Corbin? And we find out right away it's Elias. And then you got Seth Rollins coming there and is like, if you align yourself with Baron Corbin, you're going to get your ass kicked. And they gave Seth Rollins a little bit of an edge, a little bit of a swagger that was cool to see throughout the show. And then to see an announcement that it was going to be in the main event, Daniel Bryan versus Seth Rollins, that's main event quality. So all in all, I thought the Raw was really good, really entertaining. Solid. It was solid. It was good. And at least you say to yourself, okay, there are still some factors that don't make any sense. Like, why did you have a match where Baron Corbin loses and then reestablish him at the end of the show? But I do think that in terms of the writing and what was done, they did a good job of explaining, okay, this is why we're doing some things. This is why, AJ Styles is lighting up his friends Gallows and Anderson. But I always find it funny is that I think Gallows and Anderson will have the record for the most backstage promos followed by a loss. I was like, well, why are they having a but? At least intros the potential. Hey, you know what? They've had an awful year. They haven't been on TV all that much. AJ's like, dude, what are you guys doing? You guys' act is corny. Get back to the guys that are legendary. And, go have this match versus the Usos. They lose. Maybe they just need that last piece, which is club member AJ Styles, which was great to see him. So whenever you could introduce an angle that maybe could come out there, hey, I'll take it. It was good.
I thought Raw was better. I don't think it was great by any means. All that being said, it was nice to kind of start Raw off without having a 25-minute promo. We got some action right away, which was nice. We did have this fatal four-way that took place. Ricochet gets the win, and he ends up beating Cesaro, The Miz, and Braun Strowman to become the number one contender for Samoa Joe's title. Was this the right move?
I think so, because of the fact that Ricochet is just a guy that you got to lay eyes on. So he should be in title pictures. And the U.S. title is one in which you say, okay, he could go for that. It's believable. Should he win versus Samoa Joe? That's the sad part, is that, you got Samoa Joe. Who do you put over on Stomping Grounds? I'm interested to get your take on it, because Ricochet deserves the title. He's an unbelievable performer, but Samoa Joe needs to establish himself with a run. So I want to see it. I want to see Ricochet, Samoa Joe. That's a good story.
This is something that we talked about last week on the podcast, where it seemed and it felt like Ricochet was going to get the nod here. He was going to be Samoa Joe's first legitimate contender for his U.S. title. I think it was the right move. I think this was a good move. I think it was a smart move, right? You help elevate a guy, and you give a guy who, like you said, he's a human highlight reel. He's incredible in the ring. On top of it, it's contrasting styles. Him and Samoa Joe should put on a hell of a match at Stomping Ground. This is one of those matches that you should want to see. Now, I'm not sure how it's going to pan out, because
maybe this one you have no finish, because, you protect Samoa Joe, you protect Ricochet. Maybe this is one of the ones where you say, okay, Samoa, just go out there, give us 15 minutes, and then at the end of the day, get disqualified. Keep your belt, let Ricochet get his stuff over, have a quality match, but let's keep this feud going.
This is a match where everybody gets their stuff in.
Everybody gets their stuff in, but I don't think anybody needs to go over.
Right.
This one deserves maybe a false finish. It's probably the best option. Or if you really want to do it, because Samoa Joe's made. I mean, this is a guy that you want to see him. He's got to go on the mic.
At some
give
point,
it to Ricochet.
He needs to get a run. I mean, he's made, but he's not WWE made. He's made from his run in TNA and ROH. So it's different. Like, he has done nothing in WWE.
Easy talking point. Does Samoa Joe need a belt during this run right now for WWE? Does he need it?
I don't think he needs it.
Exactly. That's why maybe you could give it to Ricochet.
I think it adds credibility to him, because at this point, so if you're just a WWE fan, right, you watch nothing else. You know Samoa Joe from his run in ROH and TNA. And you've gone and you've watched different videos on him. In WWE, who is he? He's just a guy. He doesn't get to that killer mentality over. He doesn't go out there and he doesn't scare you.
So for you, Samoa Joe is probably the next candidate to get a Baron Corbin-like push. Let him get some wins. Let him have a run. Let him destroy people, as opposed to what you have done with him, which is you've diminished his character by 50-50 booking, by having him win belts and lose belts, by having him put over a bunch of people. Let him have a run, and that can be reserved for maybe just 3 people: Seth Rollins, AJ Styles, and Samoa Joe on Raw. Let them have some runs. Let them have, a good 2-3 months of wins. And every time that they fight, I think Samoa Joe should be in there with jobbers. Just go in there and work with enhancement talent, establish that you're a killer, and then get yourself over on the pay-per-views.
Best way to get over your babyface is to have them take out a killer. Samoa Joe is a killer. Build him like he's a killer, and then have whoever your babyface is come in and knock him off and take his belt. If that's Ricochet, fine. But Ricochet doesn't need the belt right now. That's my whole thing. Talking about 50-50 booking and guys who almost feel like they're stuck in place, almost like it's quicksand. Braun Strowman, Cesaro, I really feel like they're stuck in limbo. You've got 2 guys who are incredibly over. They're great in the ring, and yet they can't seem to get elevated from the spot that they're at. It just feels like Braun Strowman has not a whole lot going on. His booking has been stop, start, and it depends on whichever way the wind's blowing for Vince McMahon. Whether Vince wants him a heel, Vince wants him a face, whether Vince wants to ride the train with him, or Vince is like, nope, I'm going to get off right here. And Braun Strowman's just kind of left in the wind. Cesaro, very similar. Now, there have been some different reports that have come out over the course of a few weeks where it feels like not really sure what's going to happen with Sheamus. Are they going to keep Cesaro and Sheamus together? Sheamus dealing with some of his spinal stenosis issues. Not real sure what's going to happen with this team, and I don't think Vince knows what he wants to do with Cesaro, but the guy is great in the ring. He's awesome in the ring. The guy can tell an awesome story, Get the mouth guard out of his mouth from his busted teeth and let him cut a promo. He's incredible. And it just feels like they're not 100% sure what they want to do with Cesaro either, and because of that, you're getting some of this herky-jerky booking with both these guys, and I feel like at this point, the way things are going, they're drowning. That being said, it's not like you can't save them later on and you can bring them back and book them like all-stars. But right now, I just don't see them going anywhere. I don't feel like they're being booked properly. Am I wrong here?
A little bit. I understand that you're judging this based on where they should be, which it should be around the main event. But they are being utilized a little bit more. They are being featured. It does seem like they're starting new storylines with Cesaro and Braun Strowman, and I think that what you're going to see is Braun Strowman and Cesaro being elevated and working in bigger programs. I just think that you're collectively judging and saying, look, these guys should already be there. What's taking so long? But sometimes when you have backstage issues and things like that, new stories got to kind of come about. And I think there are going to be new stories for Braun Strowman and Cesaro. What do you think if it was up to you? Where do you think Braun Strowman and Cesaro should be? Should they be in title hunts? Should Cesaro start then now working maybe next with a Samoa Joe? Should he then establish now another feud? Or where should Cesaro go? Should it be, you know what? I would even argue, if the time is right, Cesaro could be a guy that could be next for Seth Rollins, maybe even after SummerSlam, heading into Survivor Series.
See, those would be
I would
good
pay
matches.
to see. I would pay to see Cesaro and Seth Rollins have a run.
Those would be great matches.
Great run, right? Great stories. Now,
Yeah.
you see, the thing is, and that's the part where it stinks when you're a fan of WWE, is that there are so many great stories to tell. Like over the last weekend, my wife is going crazy because I'm watching The Elite on YouTube. You know, the Elite. I watched like 50 of them. I'm like, God, all they're doing, really, it's nothing. They're just living their life with a camera.
That's it.
And it's fascinating because they go to the ring, they talk about angles, they kind of do the shoot work style talk. It's really entertaining. The corny video entry, I'm like, dude, it's so corny, but it's great. They just showed, the last episode was them losing to the Lucha Brothers in Mexico, and they're hanging out of the pool and they're just living. It's just, WWE is the best company in the world. And you feel like they're being lazy in terms of their stories.
Yeah.
You know the story they could tell with Cesaro and Seth Rollins? I think they're going to have to start now, and the good thing about having AEW is they're going to have to step up their game. I just want to see better stories. And at the very least, we had a better Raw. And I think going forward, Braun Strowman could be a guy, at the very least, renew the feud with Brock Lesnar, renew some feuds where, actually, this time around, Braun Strowman goes over and work it. And you know what? Nothing wrong with Braun Strowman showing up there and causing a little havoc on SmackDown. It's good every once in a while to elevate these guys and have these four maybe core guys and the rest with the mid-card. Or even, heck, let an EC3 come in there, a surprise guy, and get in the mix once in a while just to challenge a Seth Rollins. I just want to see where I'm at. So, all in all, Raw was fascinating with how they used certain guys. And I think I'll ask you this. How do you feel like WWE in terms of having EC3 being featured a little bit more, but also getting destroyed, being fodder for the New Day and Seth Rollins getting destroyed again? Was that a continuation of your frustration?
You see my face. You see my face, right?
I liked it.
My heart hurts.
He got his intro in. He got to at least see him and do his thing. But again, he's fodder laid out. And the New Day, when the New Day was talking for him, I just thought, oh my God, Adam's gonna love this.
Hate it.
Yeah, I know. He's just not being used.
It hurts my heart, man, because there's so much damn talent there. That's another guy, right? Strowman, extremely talented. Cesaro, extremely talented. You've got such a deep roster in WWE, and we're going to talk about this when we get to the news and notes, but that was the whole purpose of the brand split. That was why the brand split was essential. It's why you needed it, because your roster was so deep. It allowed you to have separate booking for both shows to help elevate guys and put them in spots where, hey, you're the head guy of this brand. And hey, you're the badass on this brand. And hey, you're the upcoming talent on this brand that will soon be contending and going up against these guys that we just mentioned. And now with this wild card and what seems like blurred lines between brands, you don't get that. You get a lot of the same top guys going over every single week, and you get a Control-C, Control-V for one show to another show. And for those who don't know, that's keyboard talk for copy and paste. You basically are taking what's going on Raw and you're just splattering it on SmackDown. And that's what it is. And a lot of these guys who are your mid-card talent, or these guys who are really, really good, who you could really help build your brand with and build your roster around, these middle guys, they're not getting a push. You're not seeing them at all. They don't get anything. That's frustrating.
What do you think about Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn in the way that they were utilized, having them be fodder to lose 2-0 straight up to the New Day?
I don't get it. I don't. Like, if you wanted to do like swerve booking, because everybody knows when it's like a best 2 out of 3, it's usually going to go 1-1, and then you're like, okay, cool. who's going to get the win? It's usually the good guys, right? That's usually how this works, unless you want to get some crazy heat on your heels. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn being booked to go 2-0, like just lose, not even get a win. I'm wondering if this is punishment for not going to Super Showdown. You know, I'm wondering if this is maybe some retaliation from Vince. Or maybe there's a bigger story involved that I'm just not seeing. This has happened before, but I just don't see what's going on here. Overall, I think Raw was a better show this week. That being said, I don't think it was very good. I just think it was better. I mean, if I give you a turd sandwich and then I give you a moldy piece of ham, you're gonna be like, wow, that moldy piece of ham was great because it's not a turd sandwich. Do you know what I'm saying? Still not very good, but better. As far as SmackDown goes, I think the overarching story, and I think you see it more on SmackDown than you do on Raw, and I think it's just because Shane takes up more time on SmackDown, or he gets a bigger cut of the pie when it comes to actual time. What do you think of Shane McMahon getting this crazy push to where he takes on Kofi Kingston, and he beats Kofi Kingston and takes the belt off him? only, hold on, this is very convoluted, only to have him face Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. So Reigns then gets the WWE Championship. I mean, does that seem crazy to you, or does that seem like this is where we're going? Because it feels like this is where we're going. At least to me, it does.
I saw that on the internet, and I said, this has just got to be fake news. This can't be real. It's a story that shouldn't be told, that should have been burnt up, but is likely going to be told. Yeah. I mean, what better way to continue the best in the world to have him, get a bunch of heat by taking the belt off of Kofi? That would piss everybody off. Mm-hmm. But I think,
and then you give it to your hand-picked guy, the guy that half the crowd is now in favor of, half the crowd is still like, oh, hey, this is still that same guy that you were cramming down our throats 6 months ago.
I would have done this a year ago, not in the face of AEW, because now the writers and the creative team and anybody in charge has to ask this question. Yeah, we can piss off the fans, but are we going to piss them off right to AEW? Mm-hmm. Because I think if you take the belt off of Kofi, after really kind of a short run and give it to Shane, I think you piss people off and then they just go click. Mm-hmm. I think you could potentially cause a major problem with your fans who look at that and go, this is the height of disrespect. How is Shane McMahon going to get a belt damn near at 50 years old? Mm-hmm. When you got so many guys that are just dying to get on TV? I think they're going to go through with it. I really do. But at the same time, I just think it's going to be bad for the company, especially right around the time of Fox. I get the idea, you know what? Just kind of remove Shane. Let the feud potentially be Shane McMahon. I get the idea, but near SummerSlam, just remove Shane McMahon. Let Kofi Kingston fight Roman Reigns. That'd be a great feud. And then potentially speaking, let them have a hands-down, drag-out feud all the way through, the Survivor Series. They could be a great feud for months. Mm-hmm. Roman Reigns versus Kofi Kingston, I'd pay to see that. But to have Shane McMahon in the mix is insulting at every level. I want it to stop.
Yeah.
I think it should have stopped at WrestleMania, should have stopped at the Rumble. Damn near, everyone's laughing because he walks to the ring and he's puffed out. He can't get to the ring without dying.
He gets so sweaty and so out of breath.
It's not the guy.
His cardiovascular is not very good.
No, the best in the world angle is played out and started last year. They've been doing this for a year. Mm-hmm. Why would they write this, especially when you have so many talent that are dying for TV time? Yep. This is what you do. It's unacceptable all the way through.
It really, from a booking standpoint, it's just bad because, like I just said, you've got such a deep roster with so many talented guys that are just ready to eat time and just give me 5 minutes to watch me turn this into the greatest 5 minutes while Shane McMahon's out there getting 25 minutes. What are we talking about? It's just poor booking. And I really think this is what's going to end up happening. I mean, they always want to put a belt on Roman Reigns. This is how you do it. And on top of it, everybody is so tired of Shane McMahon. He's got such crazy heel heat. This works great because Roman can come in and he could be your knight in shining armor.
Yeah, take
that belt off him. Crazy. Now, you seem to like the Seth Rollins going around wielding a chair, beating dudes up. He's a face, right? Mm-hmm. Those are heel tactics. And he didn't just do it on Raw. He did it on SmackDown. And he's done it a lot. You like this. You like this edge that Seth Rollins has.
Yeah, because what were we talking about in the weeks up to this pay-per-view? What is Seth Rollins? What's his marquee thing, Yeah, he's doing heel things, but what's popular? What gives somebody the ability to say, oh, I'm the guy? A little bit of an edge, a little bit of that, Stone Cold bravado where he'd come in and what did he do? He Stone Cold stunned everybody, including the boss. So yeah, maybe you're saying he doesn't have to use a chair. He could just come in and be more aggressive and be more physical. But I think that for Seth Rollins to meet his potential to be the guy that you say, okay, I'm going to shell out $50-$60 to go see him, he's got to present a little bit more and an edge and something where he's got charisma, where he's like, I'm the best, I need to be the best, and I'm going to be at the beginning of the show. I'm going to highlight and have the best match at the end of the show. I think you're seeing the transformation of, hey, I was this burn it down guy to being, hey, if you consider crossing me, I'm going to end your life. I'm going to end your wrestling career. That's not a bad way to present Seth Rollins as opposed to what he was. It's a character evolution a little bit of the champ. When you're the champ, you got to have a little bit of an edge. And if you're going to come in with that idea, you're just going to come take the belt off of me, forget about it. You're going to have a hard road for anybody to even consider coming into the ring with me. I like it. I think it's great for Seth Rollins to be wielding the chair and laying guys out. You got to establish and sometimes reestablish guys as, hey, this is our champ. We just didn't give it to him because he's friends with the crew. We gave it to him because he's the best all-around guy that you got to see. And when you present him that way, I think it'll work.
All right, overall, SmackDown I thought had good matches. Thought it had really good matches. As far as storytelling goes and getting me interested in what's going on for Stomping Ground, I think it kind of missed the mark.
I did too. That was my impression of it.
So who are we going to give the point to? Who gets the better show?
I think when you have a match where it's Seth Rollins and Daniel Bryan and the right guy goes over, I think Raw was a better show this week, by far. I think that a lot of the stories made sense. You have Baron Corbin go over in a little bit on Rollins after the match to establish. I think Raw deserves a win.
I'll give the point to Raw as well. I don't think it was a better show by far.
Just a little bit's good enough, yeah.
I think it has more work to do. I just think in the grand scheme of things, for what the purpose of Raw and SmackDown needed to be, as far as getting you interested in Stomping Ground, I think Raw was better. I think Raw also benefits because SmackDown really feels like it's just becoming Raw Part 2.
And then Raw is getting lucky with the Firefly Funhouse. We get to see that first.
Yes.
And then we get to see a promo from Paul Heyman that actually delivered. Give it to Raw. It was good.
It seems like Raw is benefiting on where it falls in the week, not so much that the show and the storytelling's so much better.
Okay, now, I had sent you a message because obviously we're going to talk a lot more about AEW, and they're continuing their press tour, putting out a lot of great content for us to consume online. And one of the early thoughts I had was, oh my gosh, it's announced. Jon Moxley versus Kenny Omega at the All Out show that's going to take place in Chicago. Sold out already. Everyone loves it. But then I said to myself, okay, you got Kenny Omega, who just lost to Chris Jericho. You're trying to establish this guy as a world-class star in America where people can say, okay, this guy is for real. But then you also got the hot babyface guy, this new badass character that people want to get behind in Jon Moxley. So they're going to face each other. It's going to be a marquee match. One everybody wants to see. Jon Moxley, Kenny Omega, just the very nature of the way it's going to be presented on AEW, everyone's excited about. Not even the match per se, just, hey, the build-up. What are these guys going to do all along the way? Are they going to, cut epic promos? Where's the physicality going to come? Are they going to stare down at Fyter Fest or Fight for the Fallen? What are they going to, embrace? How is this going to play out? But then you ask yourself, okay, going into TV, going into it, now we can have legitimate conversations about who goes over? How do you book this? Because both of them, I feel, need a win. Both of them, you can't have Jon Moxley come into a new company, badass figure, the guy from this new character that's just, crazy and going to do anything. You can't have him lose in his first big match. But then you got Kenny Omega, who also needs to kind of get over a little bit too. So I think that if one of them loses, it has to be to a person with some interference to the next few they're going to have. Mm-hmm. Or maybe, you just have a double count on. You have one of those false finishes where it's not a DQ, but they fight so hard that they both get counted out and there is no finish. But I think that would disappoint people. I have no idea what's the best way to book Moxley Omega.
Well, let me tell you.
Here it is.
So what you do is Jon Moxley comes in, and he's got a full head of steam right now. What he's doing in New Japan is hot. What he's doing here locally on a few independent shows is absolutely crazy, and it's got the internet buzzing, all right? While Kenny Omega took it on the chin at Double or Nothing, this is what you do. Jon Moxley goes over on Kenny Omega, beats the living hell out of Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega is a name, and everybody knows Kenny Omega, but Jon Moxley beats the living crap out of him and continues his run. And I think in the end, he will probably be the guy who will then challenge, whether it be Adam Page or Chris Jericho. Exactly. In the meantime, Kenny Omega is losing match after match. What is better than a rehabilitation story? What is better than a guy who sinks to the ultimate low. Remember, Kenny Omega is a guy who everybody has talked about on the internet forever. If you're in the US and you haven't seen Kenny Omega, you've heard of him at least. His matches with Okada are legendary, right? Why can't this guy get a win? Why can't he beat some crony from WWE? Some dude who just cut his hair and figured out how to get back into shape in a character like John Moxley. Why can't he seem to get a W? What is a better story than a guy who has fallen to the very, very bottom, turns it around, and begins his ascent? Everybody loves the story of the Phoenix. This right here would be your flight of the Phoenix. This would be the guy who rises from the ashes to become the biggest star in AEW and the household name that AEW has, if you want to say, created.
Is Kenny Omega at the point now with the fans of AEW? Does it really matter if he wins or loses? Even though they say,
I don't think
he's a
so.
star no matter what.
He's a star no matter what.
The fans of AEW know who Kenny Omega is.
They know who Kenny Omega is.
So maybe you just have, as a way, it's the way you make Moxley, is that you have Omega win the next two shows, and then, this great big build, and then just have a world-class match where Moxley goes over and actually gets the rub where, you know what, it's enough of a rub where it'll ascend John Moxley to credibility as a main event guy. I
think at this point in Kenny Omega's career, and this sounds really weird because he's not a WWE guy.
He's going to get a run. Everyone knows
yes,
he's going to get a run.
He's not your average household name, right?
Right.
But he's done enough to where he's
Kenny Omega.
Big enough name. Yeah, he's Kenny Omega.
Yeah.
He doesn't necessarily need this win. So
Moxley needs it more.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the way to do this and build this.
Now, the news for AEW was all good, man. 15 minutes. I mean, did you see Mikey on Twitter? He tried to get tickets, and he was like, 12,000th in queue or whatever, and there were 60,000 people waiting. And the only talk I had was, dude, I get it. Early shows, you want to sell out. It's all good. You want to put money in the coffers. But when are you going to come to Ford Field? When are you going to come to a big venue? They're ready. They can do it. If they do it, if All Out's good, you could have a great show in December, and that could be your, WrestleMania type show, and do it at Ford Field. You could have a show where you get 50,000 people. I truly believe there were 60,000 people ready to buy a ticket.
Still waiting in
if you got
the waiting rooms.
I don't think, are any of the show's titles that you've seen now like a WrestleMania? Is it All In? Do you go back to using All In as the name where you potentially go All In 2, All In 3? Do you do that? Or do you say, let's just keep, I had a great name too that I said, Deal Me In, could be at Ford Field. Do you keep coming up with new names? Or do you say, okay, we're going to keep this core group of 6 and just call them All Out 2, All Out 3? And just, I like that idea of just maybe get 2 more names in there, have a run of like 7 names that you just keep repeating, and then you sprinkle them in there. But do you establish your Clash of Champions, or do you establish your WrestleMania, or have you already established it?
Well,
is it All Out? Is it All In? Double or Nothing?
Cody has been on record of saying that they're not going to do monthly pay-per-views.
Right.
So
me personally, I like the idea of a December end of the year mega event, whether it be your Starrcade, Clash of Champions, WrestleMania, have it in December. That's the year. Then you start off January slow, let everybody recover. That's kind of your off season is January.
Yes.
Middle of January you start up again with everything going on. Obviously you're going to have TV, but Starrcade or WrestleMania or whatever, that event, whatever you're going to call it, should be in December in my eyes.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be before then. It'll probably be right before Thanksgiving, because I think the way AEW is going to want to do it, because they want to do an off season, and I think they want to give
some time to
give the
reset.
guys give the guys time, and I think it works best when it's over the holidays. So you have your Thanksgiving, you've got your Christmas break, you've got your New Year's, and then you come back probably February-ish. So I think it'll probably be right before Thanksgiving is when they'll have their big show.
Yeah,
but I think you're going to have your core 4, maybe 5 or 6 big pay-per-views, and I think that'll probably continue with
same name,
like
similar.
Saying. Yeah. And I think that's smart to do, because it kind of tells you and gives you a little bit of the history of where this company came from and how it started.
No doubt.
I think history is important with wrestling. You look at WWE. WWE is no finer company that has made its name off of its history.
Yes.
I mean, the product that you get today is absolute shit. Let's be honest. It is garbage. But when WWE fans talk, what do they talk about? They talk about Stone Cold. They talk about The Rock. They talk about the Attitude Era and how it was awesome. You talk about wrestling in the 80s and how it was so damn good. I mean, there's no finer example of that than a guy like Jim Cornette. I love Jim Cornette. I think Jim Cornette's great. Jim Cornette has made millions off of talking about wrestling in the 80s. Because to him, that was no finer time. Nothing was greater. He hated the Attitude Era because he feels like it killed the business. And right or wrong, that's his opinion. And he's done nothing more in his time than put over the 80s and crush what was or what is Attitude Era wrestling, which guys like you and me loved. We loved it.
So now, whenever you talk about big shows in Chicago, one name has to be brought up, and that's CM Punk. Everybody is asking, okay, will he show up? Should AEW pursue it? It's a topic, but it's hard because of the fact that after all this time, after this long hiatus, and he even replied to somebody on Twitter and said, the person tweeted to CM Punk and said, are you going to disappoint us at Chicago by not being there? And he said, yeah, of course I'm going to disappoint you. He's not interested. Unless, AEW backs a bunch of money up, but is it worth it to bring in this guy? I think that's the last thing people want to see is CM Punk in a ring wrestling. I think it'd be great. I think you and I were talking about it before we started. I think if you bring in CM Punk, you now can legitimately, week to week, even talk about competing and beating WWE. It would be a big storyline. So, real quickly, because I know we still got the preview and the news to get to in this show, how much investment should be made in pursuing CM Punk? And if it does happen, obviously you and I are going to mark hard and be crazy, and the wrestling world will be abuzz if he does show up at All Out. If he is signed, what would you say should be his pursuit of the title, and what role would you use him in? Is he a guy that has to win 5 or 6 feuds, then gets a title shot? Or do you say, all right, CM Punk, you've earned it, you're the guy, you're number one in line right away. You're jumping Omega, you're jumping Moxley, and you're the guy.
So initially when we were kind of kicking this idea around, we both, I think, agree CM Punk totally tips the scales in AEW's favor over a company like WWE. He's still,
that
years
guy.
Later, he's still the guy.
People still chant his name.
He's still the biggest name.
He's the only guy people want to see right now to shock everybody.
So I think he's, no matter what, he is a feather in the cap if AEW is able to bring him out of retirement.
Amazing.
That being said, with what AEW has said that they wanted to do, initially I said, no, he's getting a title run. He instantly gets catapulted into whatever, whoever's fighting for the championship. He's the guy. He goes in there. He gets the win. He's your instant belt winner, and he's who you build around, no matter who it is, however you've done it. But then I started thinking through it. AEW has said, no, we're not WWE. That's something WWE does. That's what they do with Brock Lesnar all the time. Brock Lesnar gets that I guess that tip of the cap. Brock Lesnar says, I want a belt. Vince McMahon says, what belt do you want? And if there's not a belt that you want, can I create a belt that you want to give you that belt? And then how long do you want to carry that belt for? That's what happens in WWE. AEW says, no, we're counter. We're not doing that. Stats matter, wins matter. So you have to tell a long story with CM Punk. And I think that's the best way to build him coming back.
And I think if you want to do it in a sporting way, if you want to make it like, okay, we're a sports event, you say, we've just signed CM Punk beforehand. You tell people he's coming. We've signed CM Punk to a 3-year deal, $30 million, and you announce it, you have a press conference.
Holy cow, that'd be crazy.
You say that, you have a press conference where you have a jersey, an AEW jersey with Punk on the back, and you sit down, you take questions, and you say, you do it like a sport.
That would be crazy.
It would be good just like that. We signed
a black and gold jersey.
3 years, $30 million. He's the face of our company. We expect big things from him. CM, what took you so long to come back? Da-da-da. And then right then and there, you could do a promo style. I came back because I think WWE is shit, and they ruin wrestling, and I believe that coming here will actually give me a chance to reinvigorate what I lost those 6 years, and just it'd be so awesome to do it that way as opposed to a big surprise. You did your big surprise with Moxley. Just announce it. Yeah. If you knew already, I think it'd be great. When's he coming out? I think the anticipation of, okay, when's he coming out? First part of the, and then you just probably do it right away. You start All Out. There's CM Punk. Mm-hmm. We would mark out knowing, or if you want to delay the gratification halfway through, something crazy as a surprise. It'd be great to know in advance as opposed to, I think it'd be crazy. It'd be more beneficial to know he's going to be there, but not know when.
It would totally sell
crazy.
Tickets. It would be nuts.
Man.
And you would have Tony
pay-per-views.
You would have Tony Khan basically say, look, he's no different than anybody else.
Yeah.
He's our big name free agent, but you know what? He still has to go out there and earn a spot.
Yeah.
Nothing will be given to him. This is not WWE. He is not Brock Lesnar. Nobody gets Brock Lesnar treatment because you know what? Brock Lesnar treatment is shit.
Right.
So he has to go out there and he has to earn a spot just like everybody else. He doesn't just get to walk in and get a title shot.
Right.
I think it'd be so great because it's so counter.
Yeah.
It is so counter to what we've been force-fed for years now.
That'd be awesome.
I think it'd be crazy.
All right, let's get to our Stomping Ground preview. You currently have the lead in the Calling the Card 10.5 to 9, where we preview WWE pay-per-views, and whoever comes out on top with correctly predicting the matches will come out ahead. And I got to come back on this one, otherwise you're going to extend your lead. So let's get right to it. Time is limited. Stomping Ground preview. The pay-per-view in itself struggled to sell out, but I do think
Mind you, it's still struggling, while AEW sold out in under 15 minutes.
All right, let's get right to it. Biggest match of the night, Seth Rollins versus Baron Corbin. Who gets it?
Biggest match of the night, Seth Rollins versus Baron Corbin, with Brock Lesnar probably lurking in the shadows, threatening to cash in his title. I don't see how you take the strap off of Seth Rollins, so I'm going to go Seth Rollins.
Me as well. I think it's going to be great to see whoever it is. If it's Brock Lesnar, I probably won't pop as hard. I hope it's someone new or someone interesting. Maybe even somebody that Seth Rollins is surprised by. Maybe even Roman Reigns.
Roman Reigns. Kofi Kingston versus Dolph Ziggler. This is a steel cage match. This is for the WWE Championship. I'm going to go Kofi Kingston. I just don't see why you take the belt off of him for Dolph Ziggler. I think Dolph Ziggler, this is part of his mini contract that he's had. He's just here to fill time and space.
It's a good feud. Two wrestlers that deserve to work together, that can benefit from each other. But yeah, Kofi, I don't see that WWE has done enough to make Dolph presentable, and realistically, we don't believe that he can threaten the title. So give me Kofi as well.
Absolutely. Becky Lynch is the champion, and she'll be taking on Lacey Evans. This is for the Raw Women's Championship. I think Becky Lynch wins this. I don't see why you put it on Lacey Evans. WWE has done a bad job with Becky Lynch right now. They have stalled a lot of her momentum. I'm not sure why you give this to Lacey Evans, other than you're saying that you want to try to create a new star. I think she still has some work to do.
Part of me thinks Lacey could do it to generate some heat, but I think there will be a title change, but it won't be this one. So give me Becky Lynch.
So now we've got Bayley as a champion versus Alexa Bliss. This is for the SmackDown Women's Championship. I really want, and I like the little angle that they had. I want to say Bayley wins this, but I'm going to go Alexa Bliss.
Yeah, that's a smart angle because Bayley's a champ, but I think that having her be a wrestler that seeks titles is a little bit more believable than her being the champion. So I got Alexa Bliss pretty much easily. I think she's going to get a lot of work done, and Alexa Bliss being the title holder is best for business.
All right, so Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre. I really don't know where you go with this. Honestly, I could see Roman Reigns winning this. I could see Drew McIntyre winning this. You want to build a crazy monster with Drew McIntyre? No better time to start now. I think Roman could afford a loss here. I'm going to go Drew McIntyre on this, but I wouldn't be surprised if Roman Reigns won.
Okay, I have to name of being different. I do think Roman Reigns is the guy, and you had Drew get over a little bit. Roman Reigns is a guy I think that's going to win a lot of feuds, so give me Roman Reigns.
All right. Samoa Joe versus Ricochet, United States Championship. Who do you have winning this?
I got Ricochet. I think it's time. Samoa Joe is a guy that is definitely a beast and a slayer, but Ricochet's over, and I think it's time to put a belt on him. What better way to send a message that, hey, the face should get the win, and then Samoa Joe can come back and work his way to try and win the title back. So give me Ricochet.
In the not being confident at all, similar to the last pick I just had with the Drew McIntyre Roman Reigns, I'm going to go Samoa Joe. Not just to be different, but I think you need Samoa Joe to be a monster and to be a killer. And I think the money with Samoa Joe as the U.S. champion is him versus a guy like Braun Strowman. Okay. So I think Samoa Joe wins this. I think he then eats up Cesaro, and I think it all ends with Braun Strowman. I think that's how that's going to end up working out.
Big E and Xavier Woods versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn lost earlier this week, so give me Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. I think they get over.
I'm in the same boat.
Okay.
I think Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, look, they've lost 2-0 in the best out of 2 out of 3s, back-to-back on both Raw and SmackDown. So essentially they are down 4-0.
They got to get over.
Yeah, I think Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn win this.
So for us, pay attention to Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre and the United States Championship. That will determine the winner. By and large, we are in lockstep with the majority of the card. Both of us have differences in those two said matches. All right, hit me with this week's professional wrestling news and notes to finish out the podcast.
As we touched on earlier, don't be surprised if the brand split fades into the past. With NBC and Fox wanting the biggest stars for their shows in WWE basically selling their soul to both of those companies. I believe, and you will start to see the brand split starting to fade. With that wild card announcement, I think that was the first part of this. Lars Sullivan is dealing with a knee injury that is worse than originally believed. This is per Dave Meltzer. The injury happened at Super Showdown last Friday, so don't be surprised if Lars isn't seen or heard from for a bit.
Poor Lucha House Party. They won't be on TV anymore.
Oh, Jesus. I didn't even understand that whole segment. Makes no sense. In a recent interview, Batista said that he will go broke before he ever has another wrestling match, so it would appear that his wrestling career is over. Also, it appears Mike and Maria Kanellis have re-upped with WWE. I'm not really sure why. I think there's more money to be made in AEW or going back to ROH, but it looks like the money is there for Mike and Maria to re-up with WWE to be part-time players and do whatever Mike is doing on 205 Live.
For 5 years. That's what they got.
Absolutely insane.
I think they might be the first wrestlers to be benefited from the fact that WWE just doesn't want to lose wrestlers to AEW. So they're like, look, we're going to keep you. 5 years for them is crazy. And it's all credit to them. They got lucky.
Yeah.
They weren't even being utilized.
No. That's a weird contract to me. AEW television will air for 2 hours every week. And this is when their television programming starts in October. Still trying to confirm a day of the week that this will be taking place, but it will be for 2 hours long. More news on Jon Moxley's NWJP contract. Him and New Japan have something worked out with his AEW contract. So AEW has exclusive rights to Jon Moxley within the United States, which means that he can only work his New Japan events and shows when they're held out of the country. All that being said, on July 6th, New Japan will be holding its G1 Climax 29 opening day events in Dallas. Jon Moxley is part of the G1 Climax. However, he will not be participating at this show. Moxley is in the B block. The A block will be taking place at Dallas. So after he makes his way through his B block and the A block finishes up, then they have a crossover event. Any of those crossover events, or if he makes it through the B block, whatever is held in the States, Jon Moxley will not be here. So it's an exclusive deal where he will only compete for AEW within the United States while competing out of the country for New Japan. And that's all I got for you for news and notes.
Great wrestling podcast, sir. Want to give love to those that support us. Definitely go and check out the Wrestling Perspective podcast. Dennis is also launching a new podcast where he talks professional wrestling with professional athletes. It's a great network, the Wrestling Perspective Podcast Network. Go check out Dennis Farrell and all his shows at Dennis77 Farrell. The Wrestling Perspective Podcast with Dennis and P.D. Williams also airs here on the network. And if you love wrestling and you want to continue the chat, during Stomping Ground, we're going to be watching. If you want to continue the conversation, head on over to Flick Chat and download the application. It's where you can go to create wrestling topics, where you can go to extend conversations, where you can go to listen to the Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast every single Friday. All you got to do is find us via our social media platform at Detroit Podcast, find the invite link, and boom, you join, and you can create wrestling forums. We'll have great debates. We just had a great debate regarding how to use CM Punk. If you disagree, definitely tell us. Tell us how you think Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega should be booked. Go check out Flick Chat. It's a great sports application and one in which they definitely promote engagement and chatting in a very easy manner. Anywhere you can find applications is where you can find Flick, a great sponsor of the network. See everybody next week. We look forward to a great week of wrestling, and we'll recap it all on the next edition of the Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast. See ya!